Hello, everyone. Today, Ale, Manolita, and I are going to talk about one of the features of connected speech, rhythm. Okay, so let's start with this. First of all, we have to know what is rhythm. And rhythm is the sense of movement in speech marked by the stress, timing, and quantity of syllables. But also, another authors define this as intonation, syllables of stress and weak stress, pause and continuant. Roach 2009 defines rhythm as some noticeable event occurring at regular intervals, such as heartbeat, flashing light, and music. And the last definition says that rhythm is a product of sentences and what happens to the words between the stresses. Now, let's move to the next slide and let's talk about the characteristics of the English speech. According to Roach 2009, English speech is rhythmical, and you can also detect in the regular occurrence of stressed syllables. When you're talking, you can notice that the timing is not regular. And finally, you can notice how rhythmically we speak. And this varies because we can speak very rhythmically when we're public speaking, or we can talk arrhythmically when we're hesitating or when we're nervous. Next, let's talk about the stress. The stress time rhythm theory. This theory states that the times from each stress syllable to the next one will tend to be the same. And it is divided into the stress time rhythm and the syllable time rhythm. The stress time rhythm says that stress syllables will tend to occur at more or less the same interval, independent if it is separated or unstressed syllables. And syllable time rhythm says that we can find in languages such as French, Telugu, and Yoruba that stress syllables can be shorter or longer, and this varies depending on the interval and the time between the stress syllables. For this, we can an example of this is that when we say something in syllable time rhythm, it tends to sound like da da da. But when we say something in a stress time rhythm, then it changes and it sounds more like da 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 or da da da.
All right. Now that some theories related to rhythm have been explained, There are some others. There is one that use feet. And what is a foot? Well, a foot is a unit of rhythm that begins with a stressed syllable and includes all following unstressed syllables, up to but not including the following stressed one. Well, as we saw in a stress time rhythm, the time that it takes to utter one stress syllable to the following one has to be the same. And this theory tells us the same, that the time we take to pronounce a foot to the following one has to be the same. And we have an example about the definition, that is walk, it is a stress, down, D, it is a stress plus an unstressed syllable, path to D, a stress plus two unstressed syllables, and to the cat, and a stress to plus two unstressed syllables, and now a stressed syllable. But there are other theories that go further and points that some feet are stronger than others, and this is analyzed by using these kind of three diagrams that we can observe in the presentation. And they are used to show the relationship between a strong and weak elements in a sentence or a phrase, and what different levels of stress can be found in them. And how do we measure this? Well, this is measured by the number of times an S, and an S symbol that represents a strong stress can be found up the syllables. We have an example in the presentation as well. Well, these kind of diagrams can be very useful when we are analyzing very slow speech. When we want to analyze conversation style speech, things can change. And this is when a stress shift happens. The following one, please. Well, why this stress shift happens? Well, this is because in English speech there are like regular alternation between stronger and weaker syllables that tends to adjust the stress. And it depends on the context. For example, we have compact. In compact, you can observe that the stress isn't on the second syllable. But when we say compact, the stress changes and it goes to the first syllable. The same with 13, it is in the second syllable, the stress, and 30 in place. The stress goes to the first syllable. The same with Westminster, the stress is in the second syllable, but when we say Westminster AB, the stress is in the first syllable. Well, this happens because the stress is alternated according to the context, and teachers have to be able to explain how and why this happens. But there are more questions than answers related to this topic. That is why, for this reason, the best way to teach rhythm, according to Fraser, can you go to the next one, please? Is by applying a communicative approach, because it is important to put an emphasis on the use of natural language. So teachers should avoid using an exaggerated sing-song, for example, when they clap to mark the stress or the rhythm of the words. The students will get used to it, and when they will face a real life situation, they might not sound natural. Instead, they should consider, and they should be aware of the linguistic, the literary, and the cultural difference between learning native language and some native language of learners of English might be syllable stress rhythm ones. So it might be difficult for them to change the one to another. That's why teachers have to need to have some background of their students. Another reason for teach rhythm in this communicative approach is that rhythm is not, in natural speech, rhythm is not as strict as a poem, because natural speech is continuous, and while we are speaking, we are thinking and trying to say things. That is why rhythm updates regularly and it is recalculated. And finally, why should we play that natural speech to our students? Well, learners will pick up the stress, the rhythm of what they are hearing, and then they will repeat them, starting with the small chunks, and then finally they will be able to say it fluently and naturally.
Sure. So as we saw with like classmates, if you want to be understood and also if you want to be understood and if you want to understand what other people say, you have to improve your rhythm and also your word stress, which is the rhythm is a combination of the two types of stress in English, which the other teams are going to explain. And here we have the syllable stress, which is when you make a syllable longer or louder or higher, and a word stress in a sentence. And here we have the content words, and basically these words are that carry the meaning and carried meaning. Yes. For example, basically, if we took out these content words, we are not going to be able to understand the message in the sentence. For example, it's not the best idea. If we took off not best an idea, we are not going to understand what is the message of that sentence. And for content words, we have main verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, negatives, WH words, and interjections. And then we have the function words. And here, the function words are like articles, conjunctions, like and but, prepositions, like of, to, pronouns, like he, she, it, and auxiliary verbs, like has or had. And these function words, it doesn't matter if you took out, took all these function words, you are going to understand the general idea of the sentence. For example, not and sorry, it's and best, you will have not best an idea, not best idea. You will understand the meaning. Okay. The children used to speak like this when they are learning to how to speak, and we can understand them, their messages. So the next one, please. Okay, and here we have some examples. Uh, the rhythm that we made when we're speaking is not the same in all the context. For example, when the teacher is explaining, she make us a rhythm like this. We need to take in consideration the student's level. We need to take advantage of their prior knowledge. But listen the second example that is the same sentences, but it's an example like if an student is giving an example, it's, it will be like we need to take in consideration the student's level. We need to take an advantage of their prior knowledge. As you can see, the rhythm change. On here we have another examples like I think he wants to go. I think he wants to go. Every single word takes you the same time to when you are speaking. And in the second one, we say, I think that he wants us to go. I think that he wants us to go. Look at the rhythm; it's the same in every word, And for example, as you remember, Anna said a rhythm like ta 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 ta. We can give an example like, what do we do now? What do we do now? It's an example of what Anna mentioned before. And that's everything. That's all from us. Thank you.